Hey, how you doing? Arthur Wu here, and in today's video, I'm going to be exploring shooting a film camera without a light meter. So to preface this whole conversation, I really believe that light meters are great tools. They really help you get the accurate measurements that you need for your ratios and just to get overall accurate exposures. However, I have come across situations where I've been shooting on this film camera for maybe about like 6-7 weeks now, and there were a couple times where I've just wanted to take it out, whether it's going out with friends or just going out around in the town and just wanting to take photos, but having to make sure that I pack my light meter with me and things like that. It's just extra stuff that I have to think about that I don't necessarily want to think about. Just doing some searching online, I was wondering if it was even possible to be able to shoot this without a light meter and what that entailed. All right, just for clarity, I'm not speaking about a Sunny 16 situation where your ISO and your shutter speed are matched as closely as possible, and then you're changing your aperture based on the different conditions that you're in. So whether it's sunny or cloudy or whatever. I found that I don't really like that situation because I like to shoot more wide open. I like to see the separation between the foreground and the background with the depth of field. And so there are other people online who also want to get around the Sunny 16 rule and not have to shoot so close down on the lens so that they do get that separation. And basically what that entails is setting your aperture more wide open and then adjusting the shutter just based on the conditions, so if it's sunny or if it's cloudy. So I'm much more interested in that. I'm really curious to see if it's even possible and then how much information we can bring back if it's really overexposed. And what I found was actually really interesting. There are a few YouTube videos out there that explain how people do this, as well as Kyle McDougall's website, where he tested Portra 400 from, I think, -3 stops under to 6 stops overexposed. And the results were actually pretty stunning. You could actually go up probably, I think, +4 stops overexposed and still bring it back, and it looks mostly normal. There are some shifts in color, but those are not totally undesirable. So I thought I would just take the camera out, do a test and see what the results are, and then share those with you guys, because I would really love to be able to just take this camera out and shoot with it and not really have to worry so much about the exposure. Because if there is a lot of latitude both directions, I think that would be really fun to test out. One other thing that I wanted to mention before we go out and shoot is essentially some of the settings. Again, to me, they seem a little unbelievable because comparing it to my digital camera that I have, I'm usually shooting wide open at like a 2 or a 2.8 for the aperture. And I'm usually at maybe around 200 to 400 ISO. And then the shutter speed, I'm usually at like 1,000 to 2,000 shutter speed. So a lot of these older film cameras, the maximum 500ths of a second for shutter, and then f3.5 and Portra 400. So it seems like the footage or the film would actually be really overexposed at that point. So I'm curious to see what the results are. So I'm gonna take some photos out in the neighborhood with my wife, and then what we're gonna do is take those back into Lightroom and see what the results are. It's almost midday, and I think it was the perfect time to do this no light meter test because I'm basically gonna max out the camera. I'm at 1/500th of a second, or wide open at f3.5 and Portra 400. And just for my camera settings on the video camera here, I'm at 50th of a second, f6.3, 800 ISO, and I have a 1.2 ND in here. So it's really, really bright. So we'll see how this actually performs because the camera here is telling me, the video camera is telling me that it's super bright. So I wonder how overexposed this is gonna go. So let's go ahead and take a photo here. All right, this location we have, I thought it would be interesting to test the dappling of the leaves just to kind of get the difference between like the shadow and the highlight, just give a little bit more shadow and light contrast, and we'll see how this works out. Getting the hang of this, I really like not having the light meter. It just makes everything just so much easier and faster and just more fun to get the kind of on-the-fly shots that I wanted to get. Hopefully it works out. We're gonna take this last photo here and then get back into the studio and see what happens. All right, so we are in Lightroom, and the first thing I wanna say before we look at any of these photos is that we are just basically going to be looking at the exposure directly out of camera. This is just using Negative Lab Pro to get it into the positive state so that we can see what the photo actually is doing. But I did not make any exposure adjustments because we strictly want to see what the camera is going to be giving us. How overexposed is it, and can we save it, and so on. So this first photo, we were in an outdoor dining area where basically the surrounding area around us was full of these plastic see-through fabric, and then we basically were in direct sunlight, except there was a little bit of an overhang above us. It's like a wooden ceiling. But for the most part, you can see the light is coming in all directions. And so I left it at f3.5, and you can see, you know, it looks pretty good. I think it's not too overexposed. We could definitely bring down the back a little bit, I think, but overall, I think it looks pretty nice. This photo here, we came across some clouds, and so we got some cloud coverage here, but I kept it at the same setting. You can see the actual color here and the exposure is, it looks pretty accurate. I mean, it doesn't really seem that overexposed at all. I mean, maybe the sky is a little bright, but you know, just from the scan itself, it's pretty impressive, like what the Portra 400 is doing, because it feels like it should have been overexposed just with the settings, but you know, it looked okay. This photo here on the stoop, we were, because we were out of the sun, we were in the shade. So I basically decided, okay, let's open up by a stop. So I did 2/50th of a shutter at f3.5. And you can tell here, it is a little bit bright. However, if we look at the edited photo here, you can definitely see that we can bring down and tone down those highlights quite a bit. So, you know, even though if we're overexposed just by a little bit, you can definitely control that. All right, so just to wrap up this video, I think the results were actually really surprising to me. The latitude in Portra 400 just seems to be very forgiving as far as overexposure. So I'm definitely going to continue to use the camera in those situations, just changing the shutter just depending on the situation. So if it's like completely sunny, you know, I think 500ths of a second works well. And then if it gets more cloudy, if the light starts to kind of dim down a little bit, going down to 2/50th or 1/25th. But just knowing general outdoor daytime settings, having that option to not bring the light meter with me if I'm just going out to have fun with the camera, I think it's an amazing option. So hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, post them below. Otherwise, I will talk to you soon. All right, peace.